Hi, ladies and gentlemen, Makalasi here, and I am here to continue talking about some of the information we have been talking about. So, if you've been following my information, we've come to the realization that in our current spiritual traditions, there's really no representations of the divine feminine. And if you've been following my videos, I've kind of came to the realization that the divine feminine has been systematically suppressed. And it's been suppressed because if you really follow what I'm saying, it looks like the divine feminine has been suppressed because if you follow the trail that I've been following, or I've been kind of leaving in my teachings, is we kind of came to realization that something happened with the human mind, really, where the human mind got separated, and it got separated primarily. That's where they talk about the fall. So because we live in limitations, basically meaning that we live in a box, right, which is a square, and we can only deal with the physics that's in the limitation. So therefore, anything that's within the box is the only thing that we can really understand. So because we live in limitations, we can understand things like cycles. So if you pay attention, you would understand that right currently we don't ever have any representation of goddesses, right? But one of the things that I always talk about in esoteric religion or studies is as above, so below. So basically meaning whatever happens in the upper world happens below, because it's a pattern. Basically, because everything's a pattern, everything's like a fractal. So if you ever pay attention to fractal, you can see it always just kind of like consistently goes at the same pattern over and over again. And that happens because we're in limitation. So that means everything's going to be a patterns because there's only so far you can go. There's only like a square. So when you understand that, you would realize you could learn and decode lots of things by looking at the patterns in history. So understanding histories and looking at patterns is a great way to analyze wisdom and knowledge, because patterns are not going to lie to you. It's kind of like looking at things from a mathematical equation. And that's how I like to look at things when I decode it, because that's how I can figure out things, because just like science, everything should have like a formula to it, right? Because there's like a divine intelligence to everything. So if you look at the divine intelligence to everything as opposed to look at like what someone is saying, it can't be, it's like sacred geometry. It can't be perverted by someone's ego. So that's how I like to look at things. I like to look at things as data as opposed to like what someone else's ego says, because a lot of times if you understand spirituality, you realize that there's something going along with the human consciousness. And they always talk about this with the shadow. So what exactly is a shadow? Just to get to it. Shadows are actually emphasizing the unconscious mind. So usually they associate that with usually Satan or the devil or demon. And the reason why they do that is because we're living in a holographic universe. And because we live in a holographic universe, we're always manifesting all the time. And if you are not aware of that, you could subconsciously, with your subconscious, unconsciously manifest chaos in your world without even knowing it. And you won't know it because you're not analyzing yourself. So that is very important to understand, because then when you understand there's powers that be that understand this, they could haphazardly make you manifest from your subconscious, and therefore you're kind of like a puppet for their dealing. So in spirituality, a lot of the ancients, they always talked about wisdom, and wisdom is the way that you can get to liberation, and wisdom is the only way that you can attack that shadow. So a lot of times you deal with, if you look at, like I said earlier, if you want to look at patterns, you can see, like, for example, if you deal with wisdom, all the goddesses associated with wisdoms, it's always females that's associated with wisdom. So for example, there's Athena, who's a wisdom goddess from the Greek. This one is Saraswati. She's from Hindu. She's the wisdom goddess of knowledge, music, and art. And then we have here Minerva. She's the wisdom goddess. She's also about learning and war, and she's from Rome. Then we have Sophia, the wisdom goddess. She's a female aspect of God. This is esoteric Christianity, really dealing with Mary Magdalene. Isis, which is wisdom in Egypt, knowledge, magic. You can see all of the goddesses of wisdom, and these are just a little bit, and they all come from all different types of places: Celtic, Greek, Egypt, Rome. So you can see just looking at that, you can see that there's a trend. So from there we can look at that. Okay, there's a trend. There's a trend with a lot of goddesses across different places that are associated with wisdom. Okay, so that's great. So now we understand that there's something with wisdom. So we understand that the female is also associated with the subconscious. You understand that the subconscious is actually the powerhouse of God. So that, therefore, when you have like the Trinity, like the Holy Spirit or Sophia, that's actually talking about the subconscious was the powerhouse of God. So the subconscious fell, which is the powerhouse of God, and it's also associated with wisdom. So what happens is right now we're in a dilemma where they're talking about angel versus demons, is basically light versus dark. Dark is could be also be the symbolism for your unconscious. Light could be the symbolism for your actual conscious or your wisdom. So what happens is there's kind of like a dynamics right now because you're in your holographic universe, you're manifesting, and you're either manifesting from your subconscious, which is going to be your demon, which is associated with, you know, always say like, the devil always meets you at a crossroads and he lures you in, you know, or then you're going to have your angel, which is your higher self. So right now you're always manifesting, but the idea of it is, are you manifesting with your wisdom, which is like the divine feminine part of you that's going to be analyzing your manifestation, or you're going to be manifesting with your demon or your devil, which is the lower self. So there's your higher self and there's your lower self always fighting with each other, and it has to do with your subconscious. So that's what with your divine feminine. The divine feminine is actually, that's the one that's going to actually embody the wisdom. So that because she's like the embodiment of wisdom, she could like look at the shadow, analyze it, have compassion for it, as opposed to a masculine who'd be like war. The divine feminine, you know, she's also associated with love, you know, so it's kind of like opposite. So that's what when you're dealing with spirituality, you always have like the divine feminine is always associated with wisdom, or sometimes she's associated with the Statue of Liberty. So if you look around the world, you can even research it. You'll see that there's a lot of different statues of liberties out there where she's holding a light, and the light, it represents wisdom, and then she's also holding a book, and then it also usually means cosmic law, or like it also could mean cosmic law or knowledge or wisdom. And the reason why she's carrying a light is because she's a light barrier, meaning she's going to amplify the darkness of the subconscious mind. So that's usually talking about, you know, at the end of the world or revelations, she's the one that's going to bring the wisdom or the revelations and the truth out. And then when that truth comes out with that knowledge, then it's going to be cosmic justice in that sense. So that's when you're dealing with the divine feminine, you're dealing with the embodiment of wisdom. And then she's at the same time, just like this, it could be good or bad. If you're living according to cosmic law, it's a good thing, because then it's going to put in cosmic balance and wisdom. But if it's not, then it's going to be negative. So there you see like all the divine wisdom of the goddess. So, you know, again, the wisdom goddess is the inner subconscious, which explores the shadow, and then she also wants to integrate it. So because she explores the shadow, she could be also associated with war. So that's sometimes you associate with her because she's the light in the subconscious that's going to dissipate the shadow. And because she's going to be able to understand the shadows, she can understand like illusions or the ego or the shadow. And then at the same time, because she's love, you can't really fight hate with hate, you have to have love. So anyway, then you understand like, because she's a wisdom that fights the subconscious, then you can understand why don't we have that right now in our current, you know, spirituality. There's no spirituality or any spiritual that always represented the woman was either suppressed or not promoted, or just written off as negative. And then therefore that takes away our wisdom. So then in essence, we're basically all just like functioning up our shadow and manifesting up our shadow, and we're not cleaning up our shadow. So now the divine feminine is about embodying wisdom, cleaning out the shadow, and then having like grace and presence to deal with it. So that's my quick video. Hope you like it. I'll see you next.